The highland fog wasn't romantic like in the travel photos. Today, it was thick and cold, smelling like damp old woods mixed with acrid kitchen smoke. The Highland Market, which was supposed to be colorful with brocade dresses and full of flute music, looked like a chaotic, threatening maze to Jack today. The laughter, the bargaining, and the sounds of livestock bouncing off the cliffs created a buzzing noise in Jack's ears like a swarm of angry bees. Cold sweat broke out on his forehead and ran down his spine, even though it was freezing out. Tu Tien, Tu Tien. Jack's voice tore through the air, but it seemed to get swallowed up instantly by the indifferent noise around him. He charged forward like a wounded animal. His legs were dead tired after hours of searching, but the fear in his chest was bigger than the exhaustion. It felt like an invisible hand squeezing his heart every time he thought about the worst-case scenario. Jack was holding a photo of Tu Tien, a picture he took on a sunny day, her smile as bright as a mountain flower. But now that smile was being crushed as his shaking fingers gripped the photo too tight. He bumped into a burly guy carrying a sack of corn. The man muttered a curse in the local dialect and shoved Jack away. Jack didn't care. He held up the photo, shoving it right in the guy's face, his eyes wild. "Please, have you seen this girl? She's wearing a red dress, carrying a brocade bag. Please look closely." The man glanced at it with zero interest, shook his head, and waved his hand like he was shooing away a fly, then walked off. Jack ran again. He wove through every stall, every corner. He looked at every face. Hundreds of faces passed by Hmong girls with rosy cheeks, red Dao men with faces flushed from corn wine, dirty-faced kids. But none of them were Tu Tien. Not a single one. He stopped in front of a group of young guys gathered around some mud-caked motorbikes. The loud, thumping music from a portable speaker nearby made Jack feel like his head was going to explode. "Hey, you guys!" Jack's voice was hoarse and cracking from screaming so much. The group turned around, looking at this panicked stranger with a mix of suspicion and mockery. "Please help me look this girl. She got lost this morning. Did you see her come through here?" Jack held out the photo, his hand shaking so bad the picture was vibrating. One guy took it, squinted at it, then passed it to the next guy. They whispered something, then a giggle broke out. "Haven't seen her. There's a ton of girls here who can remember." One guy answered in a joking tone. The answer felt like a bucket of ice water thrown in Jack's face. "Please, try to remember. She's really important to me." Jack pleaded, almost dropping to his knees. But all he got were indifferent shakes of the head. They went back to their fun, treating his pain like some roadside drama that wasn't worth their time. Desperation started to creep in, turning into anger. Jack wanted to scream, wanted to grab them by the collar and yell, but his reason held him back. He didn't have time to pick a fight. Tu Tien was waiting for him, or maybe she couldn't wait anymore. The thought sent a cold shiver down his spine. Refusing to give up, Jack stumbled toward the older, more permanent stalls. His gut told him the regulars usually had sharper eyes than the tourists just passing through. He approached a stall selling dried herbs. An old Dao woman was chewing betel nut, her cloudy eyes staring into the distance, while her hands nimbly sorted bundles of dry roots. "Ma'am, Jack tried to catch his breath, his voice low and desperate. "Please, take a look for me. The girl in this picture. Did she come by here to buy something or ask for directions?" The old woman turned her head slowly. Her face was as wrinkled as old tree bark. She looked at the colorful photo with zero emotion, then looked back at Jack's gaunt face. Time seemed to stand still. Jack held his breath. She spat a stream of red beetle juice onto the ground, then coldly dropped a few words in a broken but clear accent. "Didn't see her. Nobody came by here." The blunt denial felt like a knife slashing through his thin hope. He stepped back, feeling like the walls were closing in on him. Jack headed to the far end of the market, where the old men usually sat drinking tea and smoking rustic tobacco. The smoke swirled in the air, mixing with the fog to create a hazy mirage. "Sirs," Jack squatted down to get on their eye level. "You've been here all morning. Have you seen this girl? She's about this tall, long hair." One old man took a long drag from his bamboo pipe, the water bubbling loudly inside, then slowly exhaled. He squinted at the photo, then looked at his friends. They exchanged a few words in a local dialect Jack didn't understand. Maybe they were talking about him, about the madness in his eyes. Nobody came asking. The old man said, his voice raspy, "People have been swarming like ants all morning. We're old, our eyes are bad. How could we notice everyone? But for sure, we didn't see the girl in this picture at the market today." The old man's certainty felt like the final nail in the coffin. Jack stood up stumbling. The world around him was spinning. Had Tu Tien just vanished into thin air? Had she never even been here? Or was she snatched right in front of everyone without a soul noticing? Jack left the bustling market. The noise faded behind him, replaced by the wind howling through the mountain pass. He walked aimlessly, a sense of helplessness closing in. His legs carried him to another market, about 2 kilometers through the forest. Unlike the chaos earlier, this place was completely deserted. It was creepy. It was an old market, looked abandoned. Or maybe it just wasn't market day. Rickety wooden stalls stood alone in the wind, their rotten palm leaf roofs swaying and creaking like the teeth of some monster. The fog was thicker here, a total whiteout. It was so quiet Jack could hear his own heart pounding in his chest. "Is anyone there?" Jack called out, his voice weak. Only the wind answered, but then he saw a figure in the shadowed corner of an empty row of stalls. A middle-aged man was bent over cleaning some bamboo baskets. He seemed to be the only soul left in this dead place. Jack rushed over like a moth to a flame. He didn't have the strength to run fast, but sheer will pushed him forward. "Sir?" "Hey!" Jack panted, holding out the crumpled photo. "Please, just tell me you saw her." The man flinched, spinning around to look at Jack with his guard up. He eyed Jack's ragged appearance, then looked down at the photo. The silence dragged on, suffocating. Jack watched every twitch of the man's face. A frown, a squint, and then a spark of recognition in his eyes. "Oh, yeah, I've seen her." Those simple words made Jack's knees buckle. He grabbed the edge of the stall to keep from collapsing. "Really? Are you serious? Are you sure?" Jack's voice trembled with emotion. The man nodded, pointing at the photo. "That's definitely her." I remember that dress, that face. The other day? Actually, no, it was just this afternoon around noon. She walked right past here. Jack felt like a drowning man who just grabbed a life raft. Hot blood rushed through his body, chasing away the cold and exhaustion. Where did she go? Who was she with? Please tell me. The man thought for a second, then pointed toward a tiny trail leading deep into the forest, where the fog was thickest. She was carrying a basket on her back, looked heavy. She was alone, but she was moving fast. I saw her turn onto that trail, heading toward old Sinchai village. It's weird, though. That village has been abandoned for ages. Nobody lives there anymore. So why would she go in? The man's last sentence sent a chill down Jack's spine. Old Sinchai village abandoned. What was Tu Tien doing there? Thank you. Thank you. Jack didn't waste another second. He grabbed the man's hand, shook it hard, then spun around and charged toward the dark trail the man had pointed out. The fog quickly swallowed Jack up. He didn't know what was waiting for him. Tu Tien, or a deadly trap in the middle of this godforsaken wilderness. All he knew was that with every step deeper into the village, the vibe got more sinister, and the dark secrets of these highlands were starting to surface. While Jack was diving headfirst into the thick fog of Sinchai, where every breath tasted like danger, hundreds of kilometers away, in a bustling city center, the air smelled completely different. It smelled like premium lavender oil and money. Velvet Beauty Salon. The space inside was so luxurious, it felt like a different planet from the world outside. Soft, melodic symphonic music replaced the howling wind of the highlands. Mrs. Loy reclined on a plush leather chair, eyes half closed, enjoying the soft hands of the employee massaging her scalp. Your scalp is so healthy lately, and the roots are much stronger, the girl whispered as she washed her voice as sweet as honey. You've been using that shampoo. I recommended right. Your hair is thicker and shinier than a teenager's now. Mrs. Loy smirked slightly, a rare satisfied smile that Jack hadn't seen in days. She reached up to smooth a lock of hair, her voice slow and posh. Yes, I switched to the high-end organic line. The old stuff was terrible, made my hair fall out and dry. At my stage in life, everything I use has to be the best. I don't mind if it's expensive as long as it gives me peace of mind. The phrase, peace of mind, sounded light coming from her, but it carried a bitter irony if anyone knew how frantic her son was right now. She was worrying about a few strands of falling hair, while her son was at risk of losing the love of his life, or even his own life. The glass door swung open, the wind chimes jingling to announce a new customer. A woman about Mrs. Loy's age walked in, decked out in designer gear from head to toe, carrying a Hermes bag, bright orange. That was Mrs. Thu, her close friend, or more accurately, her partner in crime for all of Mrs. Loy's business dealings. Oh my God, Loy, is that you? Why do you look so gorgeous today? Mrs. Thu's piercing voice shattered the silence. Mrs. Loy sat up, her head towel perfectly arranged, her smile widening. Oh, stop it, you flatterer. I'm old, just here for a touch-up, so I don't look like a wreck. Honestly, I've had so many headaches lately. Headaches. headaches from having too much money and not knowing where to spend it. Mrs. Thu laughed loudly, pulling up a chair next to Mrs. Loy and signaling the staff to bring water. The two women started with hollow pleasantries, but very quickly, like a reflex for money chasers, the subject shifted. Mrs. Thu's eyes lit up. She leaned in close to Mrs. Loy's ear, whispering, but loud enough for the room to feel the excitement. "Hey, listen, that lot number 2 we invested in together, Thang just called me." Mrs. Loy was holding a glass of orange juice, her hand freezing in midair. Her sharp eyes flashed with intense interest, the indifference from seconds ago completely gone. Well, what did he say? Did the buyer close? Or are they still whining and haggling? Just then, Mrs. Thu's phone rang. The screen showed Thang Real Estate. Mrs. Thu winked at Mrs. Loy, put it on speaker, but kept the volume discreet. "Hello, I'm here, Thang." On the other end, the broker's voice was enthusiastic and urgent. "Ms. Thu, the buyer closed the deal. They agreed to your price, not a penny less. They're putting down a $500 million deposit this afternoon. Give me the green light. Sell it. This price is the absolute peak." Mrs. Thu glanced at Mrs. Loy, seeing her friend give a sharp, decisive nod. Mrs. Thu spoke into the phone. "All right, I'm calling it. Draw up the contract. I'll come sign it this afternoon." The call ended. Mrs. Thu slapped her thigh, turning to Mrs. Loy with a beaming face. "See, I told you. We're both making a killing on net profit from that lot. Money's coming in this afternoon." Mrs. Loy sighed with relief, leaning back in her chair. The stress, if there even was any about Jack, seemed to be blown away by the money high. "Thank God. I really needed the cash. Things have been tight lately. Tight my foot. Everyone knows you're a secret tycoon." Mrs. Thu pouted, then lowered her voice to a whisper, looking mysterious. "But hey, don't rest after this win. I've got a gig that's even juicier just for us close sisters." Mrs. Loy frowned, the caution of a veteran investor kicking in. "No, I think I'll take a break. Investing these past few years has been exhausting. Now, I just want to worry about Jack. Jack is a grown man." "What are you worried about?" Mrs. Thu cut her off, her tone persuasive. "Exactly. Because you worry about him, you have to hear this. This land is right by the river, next to the newly planned bridge zone. The feng shui is powerful, coiled dragon sitting tiger position, and the title is clean. The price is at rock bottom now, just over $5 billion. Once the bridge is finished next year, jumping to $10 billion is easy money." The number 10 billion was like a shot of adrenaline. Mrs. Loy fell silent, her fingers tapping a rhythm on the armrest. She was calculating. In her head, it wasn't the image of Jack covered in mud searching for his lover. It was dancing numbers. "Over $5 billion, Mrs. Loy muttered. "That's huge capital, and I swore I wouldn't take risks anymore." "Risk nothing. This is another life-changing chance." "Loy," Mrs. Thu squeezed her friend's hand tight. "Think about it. Jack is unstable. His career isn't set. If you don't hoard cash now, how will you take care of him later? You want him to suffer. Luck is knocking. It's a sin to turn down a gift from heaven. The excuse for my son is always the sharpest weapon to justify greed." Mrs. Loy sighed. Her gaze wavered for a second, then hardened. She checked her reflection, admiring her meticulously maintained face. then turned to Mrs. Thu. "You're right. I'm doing all of this for Jack. He's naive. He doesn't know how to worry about the future. I have to pave the way for him." Just as Mrs. Loy was nodding to seal the multi-billion dong deal, her phone started vibrating violently in her purse. Mrs. Loy glanced at the screen. It was Jack. For a split second, the air in the room felt heavy. Mrs. Thu saw it too, and asked curiously, "Your precious son is calling. Aren't you going to pick up?" Mrs. Loy stared at the name Jack flashing on the screen. She could imagine his frantic, urgent voice on the other end. Maybe he needed money advice, or just some emotional support in a moment of despair. But Mrs. Loy did something that would send a chill down anyone's spine. She swiped the screen, not to answer, but to hit decline with a preset text message. "Mom's in a meeting, call you back." She placed the phone face down on the glass table and turned to Mrs. Thu. The smile was back on her lips, but her eyes were stone cold. "He's just calling to whine about something. Kids these days calling their mom for every little thing. Let him be. He needs to learn independence." Mrs. Thu laughed it off. "Yeah, true. You gotta be tough so they grow up. So it's a deal. Money comes in this afternoon, then we'll go see the land. The sunset over the river is gorgeous today." Done. Deal. Mrs. Loy raised her orange juice to clink against Mrs. Thu's glass. The crystal glasses hit with a clear clink, a sound that was crisp but haunting. Mrs. Loy took a sip, the cold sweetness sliding down her throat. She told herself she was doing the right thing. She was making money for her son. But deep down, in that confusing calmness, something was off. Why would a mother, knowing her son was hunting for his missing girlfriend in a dangerous highland region, be so casually looking at real estate? Did she believe Jack would be safe? Or did she know exactly where Tu Tien was and know that Jack's search was hopeless? That secret was hidden behind layers of makeup and billion-dong schemes, while darkness was slowly swallowing Jack whole in distant Sinchai. The heavy wooden door of the villa slammed shut behind Jack, locking out the howling wind of the endless day. Jack couldn't feel his legs anymore. He dragged himself into the living room, not bothering to turn on the lights. The darkness inside felt better than the harsh reality outside. He collapsed onto the sofa. The exhaustion wasn't physical, it was mental torture. His head was pounding, every vein throbbing. He drifted into a fitful sleep, half awake, half delirious. In his fever, Dream Tu Tien appeared smiling brightly in a field of flowers, then walking away into the thick fog of Sinchai, vanishing like smoke. Tu Tien, Tu Tien. A choked mumble escaped Jack's dry throat, echoing in the massive room. Just then, the sharp click-clack of high heels echoed on the floor. Mrs. Loy walked in. The smell of expensive perfume, the scent of luxury, and billion-dong schemes she brought in with her, clashing hard with the smell of sweat and road dust clinging to her son. She froze when she saw Jack curled up on the sofa, his forehead drenched in sweat, mumbling nonsense. "Jack, what's wrong with you?" Mrs. Loy threw her Hermes bag aside and rushed over, placing her hand on his forehead. He was burning up. His mother's icy touch jolted Jack awake. He opened his eyes, red and bloodshot from lack of sleep and anxiety. He looked at Mrs. Loy, but he seemed to be staring right through her, his gaze still trapped in the nightmare he just had. "Mom, where is Tu Tien? Is she back yet?" Mrs. Loy sighed, helping her son sit up and quickly pouring him a glass of water. "Calm down. It was just a dream. Drink some water first." Jack downed the glass, his hands shaking so badly that water spilled down his chin. He grabbed Mrs. Loy's hand, tight, his voice cracking, desperate to the core. "It wasn't a dream, Mom. She's really missing. Since yesterday, I've scoured this whole region and found nothing. I called the police. They're on it now." The word police made Mrs. Loy flinch slightly. She pulled her hand back a fraction, her eyes wavering for a split second before she regained her composure. She looked at her gaunt son, and her heart actually sank a little. No matter how calculating she was out in the world, Jack was still her flesh and blood. "My poor boy." Mrs. Loy clicked her tongue, her voice dropping low. "Why does that girl always have so much drama? It's one thing after another with her, like she's a jinx or something." "Don't say that," Jack snapped weakly. "She's got nobody. If I don't look for her, who will?" Scene 2. The second blow. Just as the tension in the living room was thick enough to cut with a knife, Jack's phone rang. An ear-piercing ringtone tore through the silence. Jack looked at the screen. Vin, site manager. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and tried to swallow his private pain to switch back into leader mode. "I'm listening, Vin." On the other end, chaotic noise echoed machinery shouting. Vin's voice was breathless and frantic. "Jack, it's a disaster at Bridge B32. 23 workers. They all just walked off the job." Jack shot up like a spring, his fever seemingly pushed back by a surge of adrenaline. What 23 people? Why now? The handover deadline is right around the corner. "I don't know," Vin stammered. "They said the competition offered to pay them 1.5 times more, plus better food and housing. They left this afternoon. The site is empty. Machines are just gathering dust. Jack, without the crew, we're definitely going to be delayed. And if we delay, the penalty clauses in the contract will bury us." Jack gripped the phone so hard his knuckles turned white. A plot. This was definitely a calculated plot. His rivals had chosen the exact moment he was weakest to deliver a fatal blow. They wanted him to crumble, wanted his company to collapse. "Calm down," Jack shouted into the phone, his voice steel so cold that even Mrs. Loy held her breath. "Listen to my orders." He paced around the room, his shadow stretching on the wall like a wounded beast baring its fangs. "First, review the personnel on all other teams. Any project near completion, mobilize the skilled workers to B32 immediately. That bridge is priority 1. Second, contact the union right now. Announce increased allowances and immediate cash bonuses for anyone staying to work overtime. I need to retain the rest of the crew. Don't let a domino effect happen. Third, find out who is pulling the strings behind this. I won't let this slide. Do it now. No mistakes." Hanging up the phone, Jack stood frozen, his hands bracing himself against the table. He was drenched in sweat. He was trying to shoulder the weight of the world while his heart was bleeding for Tu Tien. Unable to just sit there and wait, Jack decided to head back to Tu Tien's farm. Mrs. Loy, despite being exhausted from a day of land hunting, insisted on tagging along. She said she was worried about him, but maybe she just wanted to see for herself what was going on. The luxury car rolled down the bumpy dirt road leading to the farm. The scene that greeted them was heartbreakingly desolate. The farm, once filled with laughter and the green vibrance of life, was now as silent as a grave. The wooden gate gaped wide open, creaking in the wind. The rows of vegetables and flowers were wilted and drooping from lack of water. The moment they stepped out of the car, a pack of dogs and cats, nothing but skin and bones, swarmed them. They didn't bark. They just whined mournfully, rubbing against Mrs. Loy's legs, as if begging for help. "Oh my God!" Mrs. Loy gasped, covering her mouth with her hand. She was usually a stickler for cleanliness, but this sight broke through her defenses. She bent down, stroking the head of a black dog. "Where is the owner? How could she leave these poor things starving like this, oh Tu Tien?" Jack didn't say a word. He silently went to check every corner of the house, every animal pen. No signs of a struggle. Everything was eerily tidy, as if she had just stepped outside and vanished into thin air. Mrs. Loy looked around, letting out a long sigh. "Why are you two always cursed with such bad luck? One gets hit with business disasters, the other goes missing." She rolled up her sleeves and walked into Tu Tien's cold kitchen. The stove was stone cold, the ash long dead. She found some rice and started a fire to cook a pot of thin porridge. "I'm making this for the dogs, but you eat a bowl too, Jack. You planning to starve to death before you find her?" She called out, the sound of the knife hitting the cutting board echoing harshly in the quiet house. As she stirred the porridge, she muttered, counting the cats gathering around her feet. 1, 2, 3. I used to see a whole bunch of them. Why is there only one tabby left? Her idle question fell into the silence unanswered. The absence of the other cats felt like another bad omen. Night fell quickly in the highlands. Darkness swallowed the mountain ridges, turning the farm into a lonely island in a sea of black. The bone-chilling cold started to seep through their coats. Jack sat in front of the computer in Tu Tien's small office. He rewound and replayed the CCTV footage over and over. The blue light from the screen cast ghostly shadows on his gaunt face. On the screen, Tu Tien appeared. She was wearing gardening clothes, a basket on her back, waving to the dogs before heading toward the gate. The timestamp read 7:30 a.m. yesterday. She walked toward the medicinal herb hill. Her steps were brisk and light. But after that, the screen just showed static scenery. Wind blowing the leaves, clouds drifting by. She never came back. Jack fast-forwarded to the afternoon. No one came in, no one went out. Tu Tien had walked into that forest and simply never returned. Where did she go? Why didn't she take her phone? Jack asked himself, tearing at his hair in frustration. He zoomed in on the footage, trying to find a stranger's shadow, a strange car lurking nearby, but it was all a big fat zero. Mrs. Loy placed a steaming bowl of porridge on the table, looking at her son with a complicated expression. "Eat, son. I have to head back. I have an early meeting tomorrow. Jack nodded, his eyes never leaving the screen. Go ahead, Mom. I'm staying here tonight. I have to wait for her. Mrs. Loy hesitated as if she wanted to say something, but stopped. She pulled her shawl tighter and walked quickly to the car. The sound of the engine faded away, leaving Jack alone. Now it was just Jack and the darkness. The wind whistled through the window cracks like a haunting flute. The dogs, finally full, were curled up, dead asleep. Jack picked up his phone, his thumb instinctively hitting speed, dial number 1, Tu Tien. The ringing sound began. Jack's heart seized up. 1 ring. 2 rings. Hope flared up violently. There was a signal, but then hope was crushed by the monotonous, emotionless voice of the operator. The subscriber you have called is currently unavailable. Please leave a message after. Jack's hand dropped the phone, falling onto the cushion. He looked out the window, where darkness had consumed everything. Somewhere out there, in the freezing cold of the mountains. Where was Tu Tien? Was she calling his name? Then a terrifying thought flashed through Jack's mind. Mom was buying land today. That riverside plot. The land that people rumored had issues. Could Tu Tien's disappearance be connected to the people trying to grab land in this region? Or was this revenge from his business rivals? Everything was a tangled mess. But Jack knew one thing. This was going to be a sleepless night. And tomorrow he was going to turn this whole mountain region upside down, even if he had to face the devil himself.